Scott Pilgrim vs. the World the Game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up developed and published by Ubisoft in 2010. The game was released as a downloadable title on PS3 and Xbox 360, a tie-in video game to the movie of the same name starring Michael Cera from the 2007 coming-of-age comedy Superbad as the title character. The film was well received for its visual style and effects but bombed at the box office. Fortunately, it picked up a cult following over the years thanks to new fans discovering its story across multiple media. The movie, the graphic novel, and the video game provided fans many ways to enjoy the Scott Pilgrim story today, but that wasn't always the case with the game as it was delisted from sale due to the end of licensing agreements in 2014. However, thanks to fans' demands, the game was re-released onto current consoles and PC in early 2021 to celebrate the series' 10th anniversary.
Scott! Let it go. Don't give him the satisfaction.
What if I want the satisfaction?
The Scott Pilgrim game and movie are both based on the award-winning graphic novel by writer and artist Bryan Lee Omalley and printed by independent comic book publisher Oni Press. Omalley drew inspiration from Japanese shonen manga, namely Ranma 1/2, and American comics for a blend of the two styles. The 6-volume graphic novel began publication in 2004 and finished in 2010 before the release of the movie. Although the movie underperformed, it did help boost sales of the graphic novel with over 1 million copies printed in North America and numerous translations overseas, introducing a new wave of fans to the world of Scott Pilgrim. Before the Scott Pilgrim game we know today, there was a pitch presentation to acquire the license by Ubisoft Montreal, who are most notably known for the Assassin's Creed series. The pitch showed off some of the early influences on the game and featured a range of music from the Smashing Pumpkins to Kanye West. While Ubisoft Montreal began work on the game, management shifted focus onto next-generation games, resulting in the project to be passed off to the newly started studio Ubisoft Chengdu in China. The project was about 1/5 of the way along production, with one level and a few characters completed, according to managing director Richard Sao at Ubisoft Chengdu. Other developers passed on the project due to its short 6-month window of development time, but Sao saw it as a great opportunity for the new studio who had yet to ship a game. Ubisoft Chengdu completed the majority of the game, but the overall scope had been started by Ubisoft Montreal, including the gameplay mechanics, layout, characters, and storyboards. With all of that already planned out, Ubisoft Chengdu came in to complete the rest of the levels and characters in 5 months, with 1 month to test and certify the game before shipping it. Sao noted that only about half of the original vision for the game was achieved due to time and money constraints, on top of Ubisoft Chengdu having to crunch development time to release on time with the film. While some content was cut from the final game, Sao explained that most of it was early in development and instead chose to focus on our more refined ideas, adding that if we had twice the amount of time, we'd have twice the amount of game for sure.
It may be riding on the hype of the hit comic and upcoming movie, but make no mistake, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World isn't your average licensed game.
Now, looking at the game, much like the graphic novel and movie, it follows Scott Pilgrim through the mysterious land of Toronto, Canada, as he falls in love with Ramona Flowers and has to defeat her 7 evil ex-boyfriends. Boyfriends? Did they forget about Roxy Richer? It's always bothered me that the intro says boyfriends and not exes for whatever reason. Anyway, the Scott Pilgrim game mostly draws inspiration from the classic beat-em-up River City Ransom. The art direction pays homage to the 8 and 16-bit era of video games with retro-inspired graphics thanks to lead animator Paul Robertson's signature pixel art style. Most of the character art and animation came from Robertson, who's also worked on other video games and TV shows such as Mercenary Kings and Gravity Falls. Music in Scott Pilgrim has always played a key role within the series. Omalley named its main character after the song Scott Pilgrim by indie rock band Plumtree. Scott himself is a fan of music, playing in a band with his friends, which is featured on the movie's soundtrack. For the game soundtrack, Ubisoft completed the retro-inspired look with nostalgic beats by chiptune pop rock band Anamanaguchi, who composed the entire soundtrack. The band's sound was a natural fit for the game's tone, but they were able to experiment outside of their own sound for different tunes. Some of the standout tracks for me include Another Winter and Just Like in the Movies. These are some of the upbeat tracks that will have you and a couple of buddies nodding your heads while you fight your way through each evil X. Although we only saw half of Ubisoft Montreal's vision, the game is still a memorable experience that goes hand in hand with the graphic novel and movie, often drawing more from the graphic novel. They both already feel like a video game with their over-the-top fight sequences and the variety of Easter eggs that reference everything from classic brawlers to Mario, Sonic, and Mega Man, making it a great companion piece for video game fans of the Scott Pilgrim world. Personally, beat-em-ups are one of my favorite genres to play with friends. They're easy to pick up and play with multiple people, which is recommended as later levels can feel overwhelming if you're playing solo. Looking back at the game's release, there weren't too many modern 2D beat-em-ups in 2010. However, the genre has since seen a revival thanks to games like Scott Pilgrim. It started as a tribute, but managed to be one of the best modern brawlers. It's gone full circle now with new releases to classic beat-em-ups like River City Girls and Streets of Rage 4, keeping the genre strong.
Let's take a look at some of tonight's innovative winners brought to you by Strive. Best Adapted Video Game, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, the game. Most anticipated game, Portal 2.
When it comes to remasters or re-releases, developers usually use the opportunity to add content that they weren't able to put in the first time. Unfortunately, that's not the case with Scott Pilgrim. It's the same game that was released in 2010 without any updates or upgrades. Given the 10th anniversary, it's a letdown that there wasn't anything new added to the game. It would have been nice to see a new character, area, or at least some concept art. Omalley mentioned that there were plans for a Montreal DLC with the original release, which included the Clash at Demon Head band as playable characters, but it was scrapped due to budget reasons. This could have given the game extra content for more replayability and longevity. Nonetheless, it's a miracle that the game was re-released, let alone made in the first place. Omalley described working on the game at Ubisoft Montreal as a stressful experience due to an inexperienced team and a lack of resources. Despite not making any money from the game, he made it a personal goal to help bring the game back for the fans who never gave up on it. At one point, the game was even cancelled, but Ubisoft Chengdu picked it up and pulled it together, releasing one of the best licensed games based on a graphic novel and movie which brought together fans of music, games, and comics for an amazing crossover experience of pop culture.
This isn't the end. Find out what happens to Scott, Kim, and a bunch of other people.
Consider our fight begun!
In Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Only in theaters.